Hello and welcome to Select's series of short videos. Now this is the first in a series of videos to illustrate test requirements for new electrical installations and additions and alterations to existing electrical installations as contained in BS7671 2008, incorporating Amendment 3 2015, Requirements for Electrical Installations, which is also known as the IET Wiring Regulations 17th edition. Now these videos will help apprentice electricians to refresh their knowledge of inspection and testing before undertaking Section C of the final Integrated Competence Assessment, known as FICA, and will also be of help to qualified electricians wanting to understand these requirements. So let's start by reminding ourselves why we have to carry out inspection and testing. You see, there's a fundamental requirement for inspection and testing in BS7671, which is the industry standard that provides the requirements for electrical installations. Regulation 134.2.1 requires that during erection and completion of an installation or an addition or alteration to an installation, and before being put into service, appropriate inspection and testing shall be carried out by skilled persons competent to verify the requirements of this standard have been met. However, the actual details of the inspection and tests that may have to be undertaken are given in Part 6 of BS7671. Chapter 61 provides the requirements for initial verification. Regulation 610.1 requires that every installation shall, during erection and on completion, before being put into service, be inspected and tested to verify, so far as is reasonably practicable, that the requirements of the regulations have been met. Now, this regulation also requires that we consider safety precautions that may be necessary to avoid danger to persons and livestock. For example, other construction site operatives and the inspector carrying out the actual inspection and test, and to avoid damage to property and installed equipment during inspection and testing. Now, when it comes to safety precautions, we first of all should consider competency. Regulation 16 of the Electricity at Work Regulations 1989, which is the legal requirements relating to those undertaking electrical work in the workplace. It requires persons to have technical knowledge or experience to prevent danger or injury, or be under supervision as appropriate, having regard to the nature of the work. So in short, they need to be competent or suitably supervised. It is therefore vital that the inspector is suitably qualified and has all of the necessary skills and knowledge to carry out this work safely. Specifically, it's important that he or she has a good working knowledge of the actual version of BS7671, current at the time of the work, and particularly that the person is fully conversant with the inspection and testing process required. Next, consider the suitability of the test equipment and the test leads to be used. It should be confirmed that the test equipment conforms to BSEN 61577 and that it's in good working order. It should be regularly checked and maintained where required, and its accuracy confirmed by calibration if necessary, and this is recommended. It should be ensured that test leads to be used are compatible with the equipment. And remember, different manufacturers may have particular requirements. And the test leads must be in good condition and suitable for the range of test voltages and currents applied. A suitable range of probes and clips should also be available as necessary to carry out specific tests. For example, fused probes compliant with HSE guidance may be necessary for undertaking any live tests. Now you should note here, a good working knowledge of the operation of the test instrument, including selection of the correct test function and scale, is also very important to ensure correct and accurate test information is obtained. It's also very important that the correct sequence is followed as required in Chapter 61. Inspection should always precede testing, and initial testing should be carried out before the installation is energized, and then any tests necessary with the installation energized should then be carried out. All relevant HSE guidance should be observed when carrying out this type of work, which includes the Electricity at Work Regulations 1989, Guidance on Regulations HSR 25, Electricity at Work Safe Working Practices HSG 85. Electrical Test Equipment for Use on Low Voltage Electrical Systems Guidance Note GS 38. And a risk assessment should be carried out, and where necessary, measures put in place, including using appropriate personal protective equipment before testing begins. Now, it's important that appropriate inspection is carried out before commencing any tests, as per Regulation 611.1. This shall normally be done with the supply disconnected and carried out during the erection of the electrical installation, as well as on its completion, to verify that all equipment has been selected and erected in accordance with BS 7671. And this should take account of the manufacturer's instructions, and that it's not visibly damaged or defective so as to impair the safety of the installation. Regulation 610.2 requires that information should be given to the inspector, such as the general characteristics of the supply, for example the type of earthing system, nominal voltage, nature of the current and frequency, prospective short-circuit current at the origin of the installation, earth fault loop impedance of that part of the system external to the installation. So let's now take a look at the test rig that we're going to use for this demonstration. From a visual examination of the test rig, it's supplied by a flexible cable taken from a three-phase and neutral supply, TPNN, AC supply. The supply cable provides a connection to earth using a separate protective conductor, so would be regarded as a TNS earthing system. The earth fault loop impedance and prospective fault current will need to be determined by test. Information will also be required to identify the type and composition of each circuit, conductor type and size, etc. Also the methods used for protection, basic and fault, and information necessary for the identification of devices for protection, isolation and switching, including its location, and also information on any circuit or equipment vulnerable to the tests. A schematic diagram for test rig 2 is available, identifying the final circuits, but inspection will have to be carried out to determine conductor sizes, method of protection, and information to identify the devices for protection. This would normally be included with installation layout drawings, circuit charts and cable schedules, tables, etc., and is of particular importance to the inspector who will be comparing subsequent test results against various criteria contained within BS 7671 to establish compliance with the design. Regulation 611.3 provides a list of items that should be checked where relevant, including as appropriate all particular requirements for any special installations or locations, as per Part 7 of BS 7671. E.g. location containing a bath or a shower. The results of the inspection should be recorded on a schedule of inspections, which should be based on the model provided in Appendix 6 of BS 7671. This could be used during the inspection process to remind the inspector of the items that may require inspection. When completing the schedule, the outcome of the inspection of each relevant item should be recorded as satisfactory, and those items not applicable should be identified by asserting an NA indication in the relevant box. Now, it's important that defects or omissions revealed during the inspection and test process are made good to allow the necessary documentation to be issued on completion of the verification. Inspection may be relatively straightforward in the situation where the inspector is the person who's carried out the installation work. However, it may not be so straightforward a task when he or she has to inspect the work of others, particularly on larger installations. In this situation, the inspector will require to be confident that work has been installed in accordance with BS7671 and will need to carry out inspections at all stages of construction to verify that the work is compliant. For example, the inspector would need to be on site to inspect the work at the first fix stage before work is covered over or buried within the fabric of the building, and during second fix stage while electrical accessories and other equipment are being installed. A final inspection should be undertaken before any testing is undertaken to ensure that work has been completed as per Regulation 611.2. Okay, so that concludes this brief introduction. So we now recommend that you watch the next video in the series, which is the test sequence.